It's Stifler's party. We gotta go. It'll be great.
Why? All that happens at Stifler's parties is a bunch of people get drunk and do it.
Yeah.
Recording in progress. I feel like I could do that voice.
You could do a lot of voices. Since the beginning of our relationship, I've been trying to get you into sex voice work.
Too bad I just can't act.
You don't have to. Just, I'm sure Wicked Wanda could hook you up with some toys. You strap them on and just hook a microphone up. Oh my God.
Too much. That's a little aggressive.
Well, you know what else is aggressive? What I had to do today on my dog walk with Mr. Lincoln here.
What?
He's squatting and he's pooing and pooing and pooing. And I'm like looking in the clouds or whatever you do. And I'm like, he's squatting for a really long time. What's happening? I look over and he's trying to push out the longest piece of grass I've ever seen. And it wasn't coming out. So like a good mom, I had to march over there and pull a piece of straw out of my dog's ass.
Well, that's
Happy Friday.
That's not that bad. One of my friends, she has a bigger dog, obviously a real dog. And
did you hear that? Did you hear that, you guys? Okay.
They know they're not dogs. They don't want to be dogs.
Right.
But she was up at family and her dog was playing with another bigger dog. And I guess they're in the yard and all of a sudden, like one of the dogs comes in with a baby bunny in its mouth.
Oh.
And so they go out to check and they had found like a burrow of these bunnies and like one was missing a head and they never found the head. So when she was walking her dog, she had to clean up rabbit bits and stuff with this out of it.
Hey, mom, tricks are for kids. Of course, it had to be a baby rabbit too. It couldn't just be like a.
Could you imagine though, these two dogs, like one was a pit bull and one's like a big like retriever mix.
Yeah.
And they're just out playing, both young dogs. And all of a sudden they see these little tiny fluffy things hopping all over the place. It's like a dog's dream. They don't know they're the babies. Although the pit bull was the one that brought the first one into the house, but didn't kill it, just was holding it like a baby. It was the other dog that killed it. So there you go. People that think pit bulls are vicious.
Well, you know, here now, this is taking a whole different episode, but I heard about, you know, how there was like this influx of people having chickens during the pandemic, but a lot of people think you just have to put up like a chicken coop and you can leave the ground like natural. You can't do that. You know why, right?
Coyotes and shit. Probably.
Yeah. They just dig. And then talk about a feast. So these poor chickens are just in there watching this coyote dig to them. Terrible.
Pack. Why didn't they pack? I know they can pack. They have talons too, don't they? And teeth. I'm just joking. I don't know.
Learn from your geese counterparts.
Right.
Gosh. Well, speaking of food, coming out of my dog's butt.
Right.
Segues have never been my thing. Listen, Jenna, how do you feel about gelatin in your food?
It's good. It's good. It's good for your collagen. It's good for your skin. It's good for your bones, apparently.
Oh, is that true? Do you ever, you know the rotisserie chickens that we love so much?
I got one in my fridge right now and a frozen carcass in my freezer.
Nice. Well, I bet you the frozen part has some of this gelatin along the bottom. Like I've noticed after the second day. Oh, it's so gross.
It's fat.
You don't find it disgusting? Oh,
yeah, but on those fat.
It's disgusting and it's clear. Grosses me out.
Don't tell me you've never eaten some leftover mashed potatoes or leftover Thanksgiving dinner with a little bit of turkey on it cold and you ate it with the coagulated gravy on top.
Oh no, I really have a problem with coagulated food, which is maybe why I picked this topic to work through some issues.
Right.
Oh yes, it's time for a wobbly history of the JELLO shot.
Oh, now that makes me feel more ill than the coagulated fat.
Oh, really?
JELLO shots. Oh my gosh! Before we start, when I was really young, I mean not young. Sorry, legal drinking age. I was young. I was still in high school. Me and my friends found her dad's like grappa that he makes, and grappa has like if you make it at home, it has a super high concentration of alcohol. It's like moonshine essentially.
Oh, okay.
And we found it and we were like, we'll make JELLO shots out of it. But because the alcohol concentration was so high, the JELLO wouldn't set. So we just like slurped it with a straw. It was the most disgusting thing I've ever had in my life.
Oh,
yeah.
You got to make JELLO shots days in advance, which is something you learn in college, kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just don't put as much booze in it.
Right. But then it's just Jello. I'll do a Jello shot, but Jello itself has always freaked me out. And it was like my mom's staple at family dinners growing up, maybe because it was so easy. But the kids in our family loved it. I was the only one that was like, ew, I'm not touching that Jello.
Yeah, it's easy and cheap. That's why.
Maybe, yeah. Just like my family. Okay, so here we go. Medieval peasants were getting ripped on gelatinized booze way before frat boys. Did you know it went back this far?
No.
I know. I can't believe it. Now, okay, so there's history records of Jello type foods being around since medieval times, but the Jello shot became famous in like the 50s, 60s. But I guess before we begin, we should make sure everybody knows what a Jello shot is.
So, you know, when you so first what you have to do is you have to go to McDonald's and you have to make sure it's a McDonald's that serves their ketchup in the little paper cups, because you can go under those cupboards and steal a whole stack of them. Yes. Or you can go to the store and just buy them. But you buy
get the paper ones, not the plastic.
Right. Yeah. You have to get the paper ones because you have to peel it back when you take the shot. But you do that and then you buy Jello and you follow the directions. It's just you replace the cold water with booze, vodka usually. Yeah. That was a very perfect explanation. Yeah. I was just afraid some people might think a Jello shot is their COVID vaccine administered by a Greek nurse, you know? Yellow shot. You can also
Yellow
get
shot.
Stupid. You can also get creative and put like a raspberry in each one or something like that.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Yeah. So
even though there's records of them dating back to medieval times, as the legend goes, Jello shots were created by an American mathematician named Tom Leher. Leher. Try saying that drunk. Tom Leher. Yeah. So sometime in December 1956, this genius, Tom Leher, mixed Jello and vodka as a way to sneak booze into a Christmas party on a military base.
I like this guy.
Yeah, right?
I would have laid him.
Yeah. Was that a Hawaiian thing?
Sure.
Or you mean you would have had sex with him?
His last name is Leher. I would have laid him.
Sorry. I forgot already. Too many Jello shots. We should just call this episode Dad Jokes That Flop. Okay. So this would happen that Christmas in 1956. From the horse's mouth himself, Tom Leher said, quote, "What had happened was I was in the Army for 2 years and we were having a Christmas party on the naval base where I was working in Washington, D.C. The rules said no alcoholic beverages were allowed and we wanted to have a little party. So a friend and I spent an evening experimenting with Jello. We finally decided that orange Jello and vodka was the best. Take note. We tried gin and vodka, various flavors and stuff. Of course, you can't sample too much. So we went over to her apartment and we made all these little cups and we thought, okay, we're going to bring them in. And the Marine Guard would say, what's in there? And we'd say, Jello. And then he'd say, okay. But he didn't even ask. So it worked. I highly recommend it. Orange Jello.
There we go. I personally like red Jello, but that's just me. And I'm sure back in the 50s, they only had like 2 flavors.
Yeah, probably. And green was one of them, whatever the F that
Lime.
was. Nasty. Ugh. So after this party, Jello shots took off in a huge way. All the Marines called their wives back home to tell them about the refreshing party favor they just discovered. Next thing you know, all the housewives are whipping up Jello shots and those stupid Jello jiggly things with the fruit in it.
Yeah, they call them salads, I think.
Oh, those things. Oh, I can't. That's what ruined it for me. Jello with pineapple chunks in it. Disgusting. So Tom Leher's Jello shot invention became so popular that a hit song, debatable, was written about it called Jello Shots by a comedian named Luke Ski. Here's a clip.
Before we play the clip, should we give everyone a warning that this might be the most annoying song you've ever heard in your life?
I sent it to Jenna at like 7 a.m. being like, listen to this.
All I said was, this is the worst I've ever heard. Here it is.
The folks still remember it was late December of 56, that was the case. Serving in the army, Tom's planned Christmas party, no spirits allowed on the base. Sneak it in, you may ask, in a small metal flask. No way, 'cause those sergeants could smell a tin. So do what you oughta, use vodka, not water, inside a dessert made of gelatin. Jello shots, oh Jello shots, from Fort Dix out to Santa Monica. Jello shots, oh Jello shots, you saved us all from a dry Hanukkah. Jello shots, oh Jello shots, we sure fooled that old Uncle Sam. Jello shots, oh Jello shots, but now I'm not sure where I...
Yeah. So that just goes to show how delicious Jello shots were that people heard that song and still wanted to make this shit.
Are you a big fan of Jello shots though? I just don't like how they sneak up on you and get you really fucking hammered.
Yeah, they do. And because you get extra sugar, right?
Right. I also think it's just the fact shooting anything does that to you.
Yeah, because you're still having a shot. Maybe it's a little smaller than
well,
normal.
I think it's because when you drink alcohol, like the drunker you get, it has to do with how quick your body metabolizes the alcohol, right? So if you're like shooting anything, whether it be a Jello shot or a normal shot, like your body doesn't get as much time to like filter out the booze, I guess, maybe.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Because if I sit there and shoot a bottle of vodka and I sip a bottle of vodka, I'm going to get way more drunk with the shooting.
Of course. And that's why I can't do tequila shots or I end up either in a fight or in jail. True story. Scroll back. I'm sure I've told them both. So here we go. This Jello shot fame, though, started to make Tom a little uncomfortable. And this is where you start to wonder, was he just a big, faker and he ripped this idea off someone else? Because what happened when this stupid song we just listened to started to take off, Tom emailed him and he tried to downplay his credit.
Whoa.
Or he didn't email.
The song's from like 1920. Emailed him. Woo!
Sorry. It said corresponded, and in my modern brain, I translate that to email. But you're right; it was actually probably like with a felt tip pen.
Oh yeah.
So this is what Tom wrote to him. He said, "I enjoyed your song Jello Shots very much, but I must confess, although I may have independently come up with the idea of vodka and Jello, as I'm sure many others have, I didn't think up the name Jello Shots, and I don't know who did, but your song still meant the world to me." Okay.
Oh.
It's kind of like those stupid things, like even TikTok, what makes things viral, you just never know when something's going to stick and everybody's going to start using it,
Well, what's more interesting is back then it really was word of mouth that made things viral. There was no internet, there was no nothing. Like maybe it appeared in the newspaper as a recipe, I don't know. But it probably, what it did was back then military families like all lived in the same towns like they kind of do now too. So once they started telling their wives, they told other military wives, and those military wives told other ones, and it just boom, boom, boom.
And, there's something to say that maybe Jello was behind this. Like, genius. Remember last week, cocaine and Coca-Cola? Come on.
They're happy. I'm sure they were definitely happy that Jello got a little bit of a boost.
I'm sure they were. And at first, supposedly, though, Jello wasn't even invented the way we know it. So for a more historical, accurate answer, we looked up this guy named Ken Alabala.
Okay.
Albala. I just wanted to say Alabala. He's a history professor at the University of the Pacific. And he said, quote, "There is no doubt that Tom Lehrer is a genius at sneaking things into parties, but he didn't invent the Jello shot. There are records that date back to the beginning of Jello in 1845 that includes wine. So no one can be credited with mixing booze and Jello."
That's when the cocaine phase was on. Man, I want to go back to the 1850s.
1845. Sorry, I had said that Jello wasn't invented, but it was because it was around since the 1800s.
Right. Well, I wonder how Jello was invented because it is made from like bones and horse hooves, I believe.
It's so disgusting. You're right.
I don't know if it still is, but that was the rumor when we were kids.
Now it's probably like synthetic, but aspics, I just saw my notes. Aspics were the name for those Jello cakes, salad things. Oh, that's so disgusting.
There's also something else that's called like ambrosia salad or something that comes with like, it looks like whipped cream with marshmallows. Hold on.
That is so, yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I can't eat that either.
I just want to make sure that's actually what it's called, but.
What's interesting though is talking about medieval, they actually put, did you find it?
It is called ambrosia salad.
Ambrosia, yeah, and it's like a light orange, right?
Ew,
like it's so disgusting.
Looks disgusting.
Oh my God. I can't, anyway, but to each their own. But what they did with gelatin in medieval times was they'd add it to food to cut acidity. Apparently, wine. So I'm getting confused. Deep breath, Jesse. So the reason they put wine in disgusting desserts that contain Jello was for flavor, because acidity in the wine drew out gelatin of bones, feet, and skin.
Yeah.
So there's our answer. That's where it comes from.
Okay.
Wow.
I take powdered collagen every morning.
Well, collagen is not gelatin.
But it comes from gelatin. Like I looked up like what foods to eat for now. Like that's why people like bone broth is so popular now, because it has collagen in the bones.
Well, I'm gonna have to get over this gelatin phobia, I guess.
Right, because I've been taking your best friend.
I know. I'll put it on my face. I inject it in my face, but I won't eat it.
He snorts it.
Yeah, right. If I could, I would. Okay, coming back to the more modern Jello shots. If it wasn't Tom Layer that invented them, it was definitely around that time, because around the late 50s is when Jello started adding different flavors to those little boxes. Before that, you could just buy powdered Jello, but you had to add your own flavor.
You still can. You still can buy non-flavored gelatin.
Yeah. So here's the thing, is like we were talking about, they're kind of gross, right? Or they make you feel sick. Why do you think that they're so popular?
Because they're a fun time. Jello shots, when someone shows up with a tray of Jello shots, everyone is excited. Here's a perfect example of this story. And I don't know if I've said this story on the podcast, but when I was in high school and in my last final year, I got to go on what was called recruiting trips. So if a school was interested in you, you'd fly out for the weekend, you bill it with some of the players, and like they'd show you around campus, you'd meet with the coach, talk about your scholarship, and then send you back on your way. So I got a recruit trip to a school called Tulane University, and that is located right in the heart of New Orleans, right there in the French Quarter. They have an on-campus bar that's open till 5 a.m. called The Boot. It is like, it's New Orleans. So
do they serve your drinks in a glass boot?
Well, no. I don't remember, because I don't really remember that part of the night. But so I really wanted to go to this school because I wanted to be a lawyer, and they had a really good law program. Oh. And it was just a very prestigious academic school. And so I went there and I was like, don't drink, Jenna. Don't drink. Well, the girl I was staying with, I walked in, she opened up all the cupboards in her kitchen. They were filled with booze. And I was like, uh-oh. So we went to a fraternity party. I had a good buzz on. It was this cool theme of ice and fire and ice. Like, and they had like dry ice out and all this stuff. And I was sitting there and I was like, dumb 16, 17-year-old. I'm like, any Canadian can outdrink an American at like a frat party of Americans. This football player walks up with a tray of Jello shots and he's like, you and me, let's go shot for shot. So I was like, okay. So I did it. And obviously I was pretty tipsy because I was leaving. And as I walked out, I fell in a pool in front of everyone.
Oh,
didn't get home in the morning until like 5 a.m. I had to meet the coach at 7:30 in the morning the next day. And if you've ever been to New Orleans, when you're driving downtown, the heat mixed with the smells of New Orleans, like the food and the gunge and everything. We're sitting at a stoplight. I got out of the car, I ran across the street and vomited into a planter in front of this coach. Let's just say she like, and after she's like, well, you know, drinking's a big issue on our team, so I don't know if you'll fit here. And I'm like, yeah, no wonder it's a big issue on your team. Look at that girl has a fully stacked bar and you have her hosting.
Yeah. And you're getting drunk before your audition.
At the end of the day, even though I was really upset with myself for blowing that scholarship, I am grateful I didn't get it, because then I would have been a victim of Katrina.
Oh, so that's a kumbaya lesson, that sometimes life leads you away from something.
Because I was there about 24 hours before Katrina hit and almost didn't escape the city with my soccer team. So, I mean.
Well, it was good for you.
Right, exactly.
Wow. That is, so Jello shots are fun. This book from 1956 for housewives, which are, you read some of these quotes are so sexist, but what kills me is that women back then weren't mad about it the way that they are now. You know,
that's how they were raised.
Right.
They were raised to be homemakers. And back then, the idea of a family, like women weren't supposed to work necessarily. It wasn't until, you know, real feminism revolution where women realized, shit, I can make my own money.
Yeah, I don't have to listen to this asshole.
Yeah.
Eat what I want for dinner, and it's not Jello.
But being a stay-at-home mom taking care of a family is 100% a job too.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
That's what my mom did. But this book said they're so popular for a couple practical reasons. They can be transported easily. You can leave a whole bunch of them out on the table without worrying about them being knocked over. And finally, the novelty of them. JELLO shots are the only form of alcohol you can throw across the room and have your friend catch in their mouth, which that one is actually kind of cool.
That's like a very interesting point.
Yeah, right?
And
Just
you can
chuck a wobbly.
You can also
What?
sneak them into dances, apparently.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can do. Cabs are here. I wonder if they ever did JELLO shots on that show. Probably.
100%. 100% they did JELLO shots. I'm sure those people shot anything they could find that had alcohol in it.
Well, that's the lesson here, is whether or not our friend Tom Layer really invented JELLO shots. The point is, since there's been food and booze, humans have found a way to put them together. Like, we'll find a way.
Yeah,
And
you
children-
know, one way I sneak booze into music festivals, ladies, especially ladies, get 2 Ziploc bags. You're going to fill them about halfway with booze and then tuck them under your bra, kind of like the old water bras we used to have. Tuck them in there, and there you go. Then go to the.
But then what do you?
You go to the music festival, you buy yourself a Coke or something, drink half of it, go into the washroom and dump a little in there.
And like a Ziploc, so you can do it up again.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Remember when we would work RBC Blues Fest all the time in Ottawa, and people would sneak in like a week before and they would bury bottles on the site grounds to try to dig it up?
That was one of the easiest music festivals ever to sneak booze in. I don't know why people got that serious.
I know, it was like, we see these big like gamer types digging up the field. We're like, what are you doing? Looking for my vodka.
When I first started working the music festival, I remember when I first heard the rules, I was like, people can bring in coolers, chairs. Like, you could bring in a water bottle. They don't make you open it and sniff it.
No,
Even a clear water bottle, you could just fill all the way up with vodka.
It's true.
It's not hard.
I don't know if rules have changed. Jenna never cared. She was happy to max her credit card every year.
Yeah.
Those $10 ciders.
I was going to say those $10 ciders that made me feel like shit. Never learned.
Should add some JELLO shots.
Right? Yeah, maybe we will make some. My birthday's coming up.
It sure is.
I'll make sure to put chunks of pineapple in them.
Oh, disgusting. Although I hear pineapple does help men.
It is. It's good for everyone. Too.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll taste better.
Okay. There we go.
Cheers.
Can't say the same for JELLO shots.
Cheers.